Hey guys, it's Stiff. Back with another video. This is actually my second take. My first take I recorded for like 20 minutes, and then I usually like just edit it up. But yeah, it didn't. It wasn't recording at all. So this is my second take. But as you guys can hear, probably the sound difference. I got a new mic, so I'm hoping that it's way better than before, since this is a pretty good setup that I got here. So yeah, I guess just get right down to it, since I already had my little rehearsal, right? The first time around. So yeah, this video is mostly going to be about the rise and fall of Combat Arms and what I think was the reason the community kind of died off. So I was originally going to try to figure out or try to look back into the past, what patches might have made people angry, or what made people quit, right? Like with each patch, like, oh, maybe it was because shifting got rid of, or like all that. But I think it's simpler than that. I want to start off by saying or talking about how Nexon started off, right, as a company, because it was a pretty promising game, I think, in the beginning. When Combat Arms first came out, I didn't immediately start playing Combat Arms right when it was coming out, like on beta. I did make my account on 2008 though, so I'm a pretty old player. I mostly play around 2009 area, but I think around the beginning they were pretty communicative about what they were doing to the game. They were more involved with the community, and you can tell that they were trying a bit more. I remember seeing those skits that Combat Arms used to make. I even though they got a lot of dislikes, I think in a way it showed that they were trying, though. They were trying to be a community or build a community. So I do commend them for that in a way. Like when a company shows some effort, it's good to see, right? One of the criticisms of Combat Arms was that it has a lot of glitches, and it still kind of does, but I remember with each patch they would fix glitch after another, like all the time, like noticeable glitches. I remember also, I know it's a lot of remembering, I remember also you can look up your ranks, so you can see who has the most amount of kills, who has the most amount of survival, infected, all that. The website was just more exciting to look at those ranks, and it was a lot more organized, I would say. Like they put on more effort of making the website work. Like I remember towards the end of Nexon's era, like the website wasn't working at all. The ranking didn't show up, and yeah, it was just a mess. Compared to the beginning, it went downhill in that sense. Like their effort went a little bit downhill. But to talk more about the beginning of Combat Arms, around the beginning, a lot of Combat Arms YouTubers came out, right? You got Backstar, a lot of montages too, like Amnesty, Kellerman, XX Turner, right? Like all those people who were seen as like good at the game was coming out, and people watched them because they were exactly that, good at the game, and they wanted to become good also. And I think that's one of the most important part of all of this, is that people now aren't striving to become better at the game. So how did we end up here? People not striving to become better. I think it stems from two things. And I was checking out some old videos by Undercover Dudes, Backstar, trying to dig up anything that is useful information. And I think Backstar summed it up pretty nicely on why people quit the game. He didn't talk about why people quit the game, but he was talking about why he didn't play as much. And these are the two things that he mentioned. It was hackers and getting rage kicked. I think those two things contributed a lot for the game to die off, even in the quarantine community. Just the game as a whole Having those two things was kind of like cancer to the game. Here's why those two things were very bad for the game. And ultimately it's because the two things, it doesn't reward players that play really well at the game. And so I'll explain. In a game where there's a lot of hackers and a vote kick system, it's very easy for players to assume that anyone that's playing well is hacking. It's easier for rage kickers to kick players that kills them. And when you get killed by the same person like 5 times, you start to be like, oh wow, he must be hacking because I'm so good at the game, right? But no, some people think like that, you know, and they get frustrated, and so they're like, oh, it must be a hacker, and they start a kick vote, and then they try to get everyone involved in like being like, oh, this guy's a hacker, and other people are gonna be like, oh, I don't want a hacker in my room, F5, right? So I think a lot of that happened, and I think it still kind of happens today, and it's such a flawed system. I think the vote kicking system is part of why Combat Arms died. It's not a very good system. You might think otherwise just because there's so many hackers, but if the vote kicking system got added because there's a lot of hackers, it's not a good way to go about it, because Nexon should have just gotten rid of all the hackers. I think that was the main problem there. And that's not to say that kicking system is completely horrible, because if you didn't have Elite Moderator, then you can't have no spec, no mutagen rooms. But those options should already exist from the company implementing those options. So I think kicking should be gotten rid of, and anything the community wants should be implemented. Rage kicking and hacking, the two things, it feeds on each other, and it's just very bad because it doesn't support players that are good at the game. I remember when I first started Quarantine, when I was starting to learn how to free run and stuff like that, you know, people would start calling me speed hacker, and I would get kicked out of every single room whenever I survived, saying like, oh, that's impossible what he's doing, he must be a hacker, kick him, right? And I remember too, when I was in Quarantine Elite, I would try to get everybody in the clan into my room so that I don't get kicked out. That's what I had to do in order to play. And if I were to play alone, then I would get kicked. And I was pretty obsessed with the game at the time, so I just played with clanmates a lot, and so that I didn't get kicked. Otherwise, I probably would have just not played. And see how flawed that is in a way? Like, it's punishing players. The system is punishing players that are genuinely good at the game. In a competitive game, it's terrible, because in a competitive game, what you want is the reassurance that nobody's hacking and nobody's cheating in the game, and that you just need to become better. Ultimately, the community wants to see people play really well at the game. They want to look at people who are at the peak, you know what I mean? Because they want to get there too, and they want to do even better, some people at least, right? And that's what most of the people want to see. That's why there's montages out, and people tend to watch players that are really good at the game because they want to heighten their skills. And when a game doesn't support good players, it actually punishes good players. I think it just causes the game to die off. On top of hackers and rage kicking, Combat Arms was a pay-to-win game. Even though Combat Arms does require skill, but paying a couple bucks for a gun, it does give you a slight edge over the other person. If 2 people with the same skill level were going up against each other and one of them had a better gun that, hey, maybe it has more damage or whatever, then they have an edge on them. And I think that can be frustrating in a competitive setting when you know that another person has the edge just because they spent money. The point is that you want people to be on equal grounds so that you can't blame it on anything other than the fact that the other person is just better at the game. And I'm going to take it back to rage kicking again, because I think it's important to note, especially in the quarantine community right now, I think there's a lot of people that are trying to record for montages just throughout the years. But even now too, there are people that tries to record for montages. And when people are trying to get clips, they tend to kick players that shut them down off their streak or whatever. And they want it easy. They want easy clips. So whenever they notice a person shutting them down, like more than once, they just decide to kick them out of the room. And so see how that kind of ties into like punishing players that's good at the game. Like it all comes down to that. See, instead of the player that's recording for a montage, instead of them trying to get better at the game, they take the easy solution, which is just kick them out of the game. And it's like, wow, good job. You really outplayed them, right? Kicking them. See, that's why I think kicking is such a flawed system. Recording aside, a competitive game, it should be between players that are trying to just push the game to its limit, see what's possible. And to create that kind of environment, you have to encourage players that are really good at the game so that they can come out with creative ways to best the other opponent. And when that happens, it inspires other people they see what the person is doing. It's like, oh, that's how you play. And they learn from it. And that's why people gravitate towards players that are really skilled. And, montages with skill got views, right? And so I think right now, people are more concerned about getting unbelievable or that run. They're so worried about that to a point where it's not about getting better at the game anymore. It's about just getting the clip. I think when it becomes more about getting the clips instead of getting better at the game, that's when things are dying off, because you always want to see people improve at a game. That's what everybody wants to see. They don't care about the unbelievable or that run if it's fake. If it's fake, then who cares, right? Back when the quarantine community was thriving, that's what people wanted to do. They wanted to become better at the game. And they would watch videos or montages where they knew it wasn't staged. And I think people can differentiate what's staged and what's not. For the most part, like based on the gameplay, like the community knows, like they've played enough to be able to point out what looks weird and what doesn't. So I guess over the years, I think too many hackers in the game and too many rage kicks in the game basically killed off the game. I think that's what it narrows down to, because what it narrows down to is that the core of the game doesn't support good players or players that are trying to improve. I mean, it's pretty simple at the end of the day. Like the core of the game was flawed, and it caused the community to die in the long run. So I think what we can learn from it is that companies need to listen to the community, for one, and competitive games need to reward players that are good at the game. You can't have a competitive game that punishes good players. Baxter mentioned also, like, he would purposely play worse so that he doesn't get kicked. Like, he would purposely do that. And I've probably did similar things too back in the day. and many players probably did the same thing because they don't want to get kicked from rooms, and it creates a weird space for that. It's frustrating. Even like, imagine getting kicked even if you're not trying either, and it's like, I just want to enjoy the game, but the game isn't letting me because I'm too good. I mean, that sounds, egotistical, but like, that's what it is. And yeah, I think that's the main takeaway from playing Combat Arms, seeing it from the beginning and basically what seems like the end. But it's been a good run. And I mean, just enjoy it for what it is for now, if you're still playing. And I guess my tip to you is to try to keep pushing for good gameplay. Try to become better. Keep doing that, and then you'll keep the game alive longer, and get people involved too. Like, talk to each other about how to get better, and yeah. I think those kind of conversations are what keeps games exciting. Oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I do this better? It leaves rooms for improvement, and competitive games need to have no ceiling. And for Combat Arms, the ceiling was, hackers and getting kicked. It's as simple as that, I think. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed another Combat Arms video. I'll probably be streaming right now as I upload this, so if you're watching this another time, just check out my stream, give it a follow maybe. And usually I would be streaming right when I upload YouTube videos. So yeah, I'll either see you guys there or another time. I'll keep uploading YouTube videos, so yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.